wellbeingacademy.com. Thank you. So welcome. Thank you for joining me. Now, do you?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Do you prefer Natalie, or I see that the name has changed slightly? What would you prefer?
No, so some people know me as Nala. Yes, it's my alter ego. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Natalie is absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for coming.
No problem.
So I think in order to give the listeners a kind of a general gist of who you are and kind of why should I listen to this person, if you could give us, I guess, a bit about your background, your journey, kind of a bit about you.
I can certainly try.
Go for it.
So I am a personal trainer by trade. However, it's been a bit of a journey since I've started down that road of health and well-being. So I actually started in performing arts and drama at university.
Nice.
And college. So I sort of went down that sort of big diverse, went to be on stage, all of this, and then I wanted to get into hair and makeup, into like backstage. But actually, none of that worked out. And then actually, I was going to go into drama therapy. So I was going to start using drama as a tool to sort of work with children and young adults.
Okay.
Working through sort of trauma. And then I changed my mind on that one too. So what ended up happening is I ended up taking the route of a personal trainer because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it, but I knew that movement was a big part of my journey and my experience in the world. So I sort of took on that role and I started working in the gym. It was a corporate gym.
Yeah.
And it was good fun for a short time. But what I started to find was there was a big disconnect between how people viewed their bodies and how people use their bodies in a gym versus what I experienced in my sort of performing arts and drama and kind of using your body as an expression. And also, I think the biggest fundamental difference was the lack of joy. So that sort of started to lead me onto this quest of what is this disconnect. You know, it seemed really difficult to get people to come to the gym to enjoy what they were doing. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. We almost have to drag ourselves to the gym, and then as soon as we've done a workout, we go, okay, I'm glad I've done that. But then again, the process starts every single time you go. So what is this sort of disconnect that we always feel? So I think that was the question that I started to go down. And then at the same time, I happened to stumble across a company called Wild Fitness, who specialise in rewilding natural-based fitness retreats. And I found out about them back in 2008. And it was almost just that's the company I want to work for. They seem amazing, and they just seemed like a really sort of integrative and forward-thinking approach, ironically enough, even though it's all about going back to basics with movement and lifestyle and movement. So I ended up, I applied for a job there, but I was still fresh. I was still a fresh PT at that stage. I was only sort of a year into PT.
Right,
they went, oh, yeah, you sound great, but come back in 5 years' time. I've got some more experience. So it sort of went away with the tail between my legs, but it wasn't the end of it. So it basically really started me on this journey of, okay, natural movement and natural ways of living. How can we incorporate this into our lifestyles? So I ended up going travelling, as one does.
Of course.
And I went to sort of Southeast Asia and Australia and New Zealand. And what I really started to find was how other cultures, and this was the time when, my perception of the UK was somewhat, when I sort of look at my friends and the culture around me, it was either going out, giving it large on a Friday night, and basically spending Saturday and Sunday just hung over on the sofa watching reruns.
Indeed, reruns of Friends,
exactly. And it just seemed to be a way that it was fun at the time, but it's also not very integrative. And what I found moving to other cultures, and especially starting to observe more more Eastern cultures
Yeah.
is movement was such an integral part of their lifestyles.
Yeah.
So no chairs, for example, is a very basic one where movement patterns of 60 and 70-year-olds were just fluid and smooth and graceful, and they were so strong.
Yeah.
And then I'm there working with, my 60, 70-year-old clients back in the UK who really struggled to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And there was just a remarkable difference from that perspective. And then there was the culture of Australia and Australasia, where people would meet up on a Saturday morning and go for a hike or a run together and then go for a smoothie. And I was like, now that's the kind of culture I like. It's a lot more integrative, right? So all of this quest, and then I moved to Canada, became a trainer there. So long story short, I then found Wild Fitness again in 2013, started working with them, which is great.
Awesome.
And I've been a coach for them ever since, running their retreats, which was in Kenya and Crete, and we're in Menorca now, and we have ones in the UK.
Nice.
So that has been my job for the last few years. But then on top of that, I've also independently working with a teacher, forest school teacher, and trying to integrate this with children's lifestyle and movement, and hopefully getting into schools as well. So
yeah, much needed, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. Kind of, you mentioned like with the no chairs. I remember when because obviously, just as one does, I went traveling as well. And I remember spending a lot of time in India and recognised that I made kind of a comparison between how much money you have and your movement. And what I noticed was when because I was teaching over there, actually. I was teaching personal trainers, funnily enough, and we were in this apartment building, and there was a building next to us being built, and on the lower levels, when people were having their lunch, they were in a deep squat position, having their lunch.
Yeah.
They were very slight of build, but incredibly strong and incredibly mobile. And these were quite old guys. And then right on the top, you had the people in the white hats who had the money, and they had these big bellies, and they couldn't bend down to pick up stuff, so they would click their fingers and get one of the other guys to bend down and pick stuff up, and it was a perfect squat as they bent down to pick up and to give like a pen to this guy with money. But I remember thinking at the time, kind of, it never occurred to me before about the comparison between your socioeconomic status and your health, and then when you delve into that, there's obviously it's massive. And it was the same in Vietnam. Everyone just deep squats in Vietnam. And you got 90-year-olds squatting on a boat, and the boat is swaying from side to side, and they're busy eating their fish without any worries in the world. I thought it was amazing, absolutely amazing. But yeah,
definitely. I also think one of the biggest differences, and again, it's climatic differences too, but a lot of these cultures that we talk about, nature is much more heavily integrated into their lifestyles too. So, I think we've created with our four walls, as beautiful as they are inside, we all have a home. We've also created this big divide between us and nature, and that's almost one of the fundamental pillars that health can really ride off the back of that and work in harmony with that. And that's food, that's lifestyle, that's movement. So that's another big difference too. But great observation there.
Yeah, I mean, what was I guess in all the countries that you went to, what was the most kind of significant things that you found? Was it more in the poorer nations? Did you, because you said kind of as you're traveling around, there was kind of, opened your eyes. Was there a particular country? Was there a particular kind of scenario that you thought, wow, I'd never observed that before?
I think going to Thailand was the biggest. I mean, I was young, and it was my first time traveling by myself, so you're always going to go in with these big, wide, young, naive eyes, like, wow, look at this other world.
Yeah.
So I think obviously that's why I had this kind of big realization. But I think because I was starting to look at the world with these eyes of movement and lifestyle and health and longevity, it made me see these greater comparisons as you normally would if you, instead of just traveling for the sake of traveling or wanting to go on a gap year. So I think that was quite a fundamental difference. But again, depending on how you integrate into those cultures, you might just scratch the surface of things. I noticed when I had the fortunate opportunity to live in Kenya for 6 months with working with Wildfitness. That was a much bigger eye-opener because I was really kind of living and breathing a much more closer to nature lifestyle. And we didn't sit on chairs, and we really ate everything locally. And so it was a very primal way of eating and living and breathing and thinking. And that was probably, it was a very, almost felt lavished in wonderfulness. It was just great. I mean, obviously totally romanticizing it, but it was also, it was just an eye-opener to really live and breathe that. And I think everyone that goes to Africa can really experience the magic of, there's something that reawakens inside of you when you go to Africa. So,
it's like that deep kind of, in a sense that we all have like a little switch. Although it's probably not quite the same, but I know when I go up into my local woods, for instance, and I'm with my son, and we just kind of jump on a tree and we get kind of dirty and we wrestle around and
completely. You don't have to go to Africa for these places. You don't have to go to Thailand for these places, and that's one. It was almost the eye opener. It was the doorway into me finding this other world. But actually, you'll have access to it every single day.
Nice.
Back in the UK or wherever you are.
Awesome. So I guess because you must see quite a lot of different people. So people go on, they go to Wild Fitness. They turn up, and they must come with a variety of different problems and ailments. I guess this question is, what have you seen in people in general that needs improving with regards to health or fitness? What are the biggest kind of things that you thought, wow, that if you change this, it will change X, Y, Z? What are the biggest kind of needs, I guess, that you've seen? Is it more movement? Is it more nutrition? Is it?
I would say it's almost lifestyle and mindset.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they're the biggest things. I think probably one of the common bindings between a lot of my clients and some of the clients of Wild Fitness as well is they have access to great food, like high quality food, nutrient dense food. A lot of them are fortunate to have access to personal trainers. And they're often very well educated.
Okay.
So they know what they, I guess, should and shouldn't be doing. They know what serves them well in terms of food and exercise. But one of the things that I often see is this, it's almost a very anxious state about whether they're doing the right thing or not always.
Okay.
And I think that's, in some ways, we've shot ourselves in the foot with this abundance of information that we have. It's almost become so overwhelming to a lot of people that they don't know what's right and what's wrong. And we never know if we're doing the right thing or not. So I think this is why I like our approach, Wild Fitness's approach to viewing and to treating the lifestyle with more of a kind of a liberated approach, to be more playful and to let go of certain things and just to try and keep it simple, because we've got enough on our plate as it is. And especially with a lot of our clients, they've got families, they've got full-time jobs, or they've got, businesses that they're running. So there's a lot of stuff that they're filling their plates with. And I think to go, oh, is this the perfect exercise for me, and is this the most nutritious food for me? I also think that that's just adding more worry on top of worry. So I think I just want to keep it really simple with clients and say, eat very, clean, natural foods. Enjoy. So once a week, if you can, at least. Try and get your home cooked meals in, and with that, it's not just rushing to get the food onto the plate. It's actually enjoying the experience of maybe doing it together as a family, maybe even foraging for like a couple of local herbs or something that you can add onto the salad, things like that, where you're starting to integrate more nature onto your plate.
Yeah, nice.
And so, and then it becomes a bigger picture than just the food. It becomes social. It becomes community. It becomes all these other things that we can often lack.
Yeah.
So I think, finding the joy and the playfulness in movement as well.
Yeah.
And this is something, again, I'm sounding like a real fluffy romantic over here, but I think finding joy and exuberance in movement, and whether that's a skill, so taking climbing, going climbing or something like that, you start to think of movement less as something that you need to do for your body because it's good for you, and if we don't do it, we're going to get sick, and more of a social thing, a fun thing, a connection thing. A piece of the puzzle that I'm using my mind, and that my body has to move in certain ways to achieve that task. And then it becomes more of a creative outlet for people, which I don't think people are creative enough in their lives as well. I think we've become very work heavy, and some people are very fortunate that their jobs can be creative. But again, it's a mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think you hit a whole bunch of nails on the head there. They're things that I've definitely seen with clients, and when doing rehabilitation, I often find it's the physical rehabilitation is often the easiest part. It's integrating all the other things into maybe their core values. So you mentioned getting more social and enjoying things, and if you got down to it, these are the things that are important to people. So sometimes personal trainers forget how to integrate things. So you often see follow this diet and do this diet, and they're like, well, you're not giving any meaning to it. You're not giving any kind of real essence of why they should be doing it, and because it just now looks like it's a chore, it's a job. But where's the fun in it? Where's the kind of the pleasure?
I often look at so when I work with my clients, and we go through the subject of food, I'll never give a diet plan. Also, nobody can really be doing that unless a qualified dietitian anyway. But
good point.
We can all give advice, but there's advice galore.
Yeah.
But what I try and encourage my clients to do is kind of look at their relationship with food. And also you can look at timing, you can start to play around with timing and things like that. But really it's about their relationship and their emotions attached to it. And this is more so for women than men, but men can still have quite an attachment to food or certain foods and why they eat when they eat. So I think things like that, you can start to, you don't become slave to food when you start to understand things like that. So that can kind of help break free some of the patterns or some of the negative attitudes that we have towards food. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you think about the reasons why people eat, I mean, it could be a cultural thing. Some people, people eat for pleasure. Some people actually eat because they're in pain, so it becomes a comfort thing.
Definitely, yeah.
When people say comfort food, I'm stressed. Well, actually, it's a you're going into that kind of pain territory, and people don't necessarily then think of it as a pain response. But you then exacerbate that pain response, and obviously you then may kind of influence things like guilt and so on. And you obviously you see it January time. People, New Year, New You, and all that.
One of the biggest associations that I had. So I studied, years ago when intermittent fasting came out. And I started to go, okay, what is this about? And I explored it myself. And one of the biggest highlights for me when I played around with intermittent fasting was my attachment to food emotionally. So I didn't think I was an emotional eater, but I soon found out that I was because I noticed myself every time I had to start a new task, or, I mean, let's face it, we can all procrastinate sometimes. And anytime I'm like, right, I've got my to-do list, I've got this, and then I'd get to, my list, and the first thing I would do go, right, well, let me just get some food first, and then I'll be able to do it. And then this would constantly crop up. So whenever I was frustrated, anxious, or procrastinating, I would firstly beeline towards the kitchen to find something, and then come back. So again, when you're forced to take food out of the equation because you're going through this fasting process, then you have to ride those emotions, and then you end up riding instead of the emotions riding you, you end up riding, and you're able to curb them, and you're able to control your mind a lot better. So it kind of started to break through that relationship that I had, and then I was able to crack on with my work, or I'd find something else to procrastinate over. One of the two.
I know that feeling, definitely. It's funny because
relate to that feeling.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I say I used to be. I probably still am a little bit of an emotional eater. I was a lot bigger when I was like 19. It's probably 4 or 5 stone more than I am now. I was quite big. I was heavily into powerlifting, and that was my defense. And I'd have like kebabs for breakfast, and be like, well, no, because it's protein, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Why not? Why not? But yeah, it was absolutely bonkers. When I reflect on it now, I'm thinking, where was I mentally, really? But then when I see, because I guess I see a lot of members of the public in diabetes prevention and so on, I kind of see how I was in those people. And just to backtrack slightly, you're completely right with regards to people's lives are complex and there's so much information. It's like, what do I do? But I used to do this thing just to keep things simple. So I used to have like these little fake props, these fake foods. I had a croissant, I think a carrot, a potato, a bit of chocolate, a bunch of like green veg, and I would say to the group, put these in order. And that was the only information I would give them.
Context in terms of health? Or?
It's the only information I give them. Put them into order.
Okay.
Because I want to see how they respond. And every single group I ever saw put them into non-healthy to healthy. And my point to them was, there's like a real kind of deep knowledge that we know what good and bad looks like. We really know that. Start there. Start from the place that you know, in deep down. Because sometimes it's only confusing because of things like cognitive dissonance. But when someone's kind of presenting, this is, what do they call it? Frankenfoods, like the made up like vegan stuff, and basically it's still processed food, but they're like, this is good for you, and people know deep down they're not sure, or is it, but they feel they eat it, and then they hear this conflict. But the reality is, we already know what healthy food looks like, I believe, and we already know what bad food is, because you look at people's responses when they, have a chocolate bar, or if you go down the chocolate aisle in, Sainsbury's, and you see lots of shifty people down there, kind of putting these massive chocolate bars. Yeah.
Oh yes, massive. But it is interesting that you say, so we're all kind of innately aware of what good and bad food is. But what's so interesting when we look at the power of marketing, especially with health foods, is, I mean, you and I and anyone sort of trained in what a lot of people would look at those foods and say, okay, well, actually, it's been advertised as really healthy, so therefore it must be really good. So if you don't quite know what really good food is, so natural food, then you could be really subjected to looking at the marketing and looking at that. Oh, it doesn't have any fats in it, or it's got a really high in antioxidants, so therefore it's great for you. So you could go down the road of having this, thinking it's really good food. So that's where the grey area lies. And I would almost encourage my clients to have, a beautiful couple of squares of organic dark chocolate and enjoy every mouthful of it, then for them to pick up one of these kind of weird health food bars, which has got lots and lots of stuff in it, but again, still they might have glucose syrup in it, or they might have date syrup, which again you can start to, it's a quick fix but never quite never quite satisfies.
You think, definitely.
I've had it, so it's good for me. So I think when you look at good food, and it was probably quite interesting when you look at these foods, when you dish out these foods, where they go from unhealthy to healthy, is the difference, which probably, I could be wrong, but probably between processed and non-processed foods.
And is that
so
something
that's the bread, that would be on the latter end of not so good. You give them the kale or the broccoli or whatever, and they'll probably go, oh, that's really healthy for you.
Okay. Is that something that's promoted, I guess, you as a personal trainer and within Wild Fitness? When someone goes on the retreat, for instance, is it all kind of unprocessed food? Is that the general gist? Yeah,
completely. General gist of it. And that's almost kind of we basically we take a very simple standpoint on food. We used to be very, if you have this food, then it could affect your hormones in this way, and it was just so overcomplicated, to the macro level that we're like, maybe this is a bit too much. And then we found Michael Pollan, and he totally liberated our information, which was great. And simply put, we eat real food from a healthy ecosystem. And we learn to enjoy it. It's try to be as local, sustainable as possible. It's not always possible, but we definitely try. Mainly is natural food. So there's still so much that you can do with natural foods that you can still create so much flavour from.
Definitely.
So that's kind of it almost becomes quite. We almost celebrate the food that we have. We never portion control on the retreats. There's plenty of vegetables, loads of vegetables. It's almost some would say if you were going to box how we choose to eat, it's almost like a vegetarian paleo style approach.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like it.
It couldn't be any more different. They're very similar in some ways.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like the facts. I like the kind of the key thing you said. It's a celebration, and I think food should be celebrated. You never know, one day we might not have any. But
absolutely. We have a passionate Spanish chef who loves food. So there's a culture behind the food that we eat as well, and it becomes a celebration. Every lunch, the breakfasts are incredible. The evening meals are delicious. So it's about kind of really enjoying the social part of eating, and the colours and the smells, and then actually that a lot of this has come from the island or within Spain, and it's locally, and it's great for us as well. So nourishing is not just how many nutrients that particular food has, but nourishing is how it makes you feel when you're having it, and that's not just the food, but that's the culture, that's the social, that's so many other factors that play into that.
Awesome. I think food should be a real mind-body experience. I remember in India we stayed in an ashram, and during dinner you had to basically be completely silent, and what this forced you to do with every mouthful, you had to really engage with your food mentally and physically with every mouthful. And at first, a typical Westerner going there was like, oh, what's this? by the second or third evening, I was like, oh man, I'm literally so into this. Like, I love it, and I still try and. It's not always easy with kids at home, but if I'm ever on my own having dinner, I always practice that. Like, there's no phones, there's no TVs. It's pure silence.
I love that.
And it's. I promise you, it sounds really simple, but it's a game changer, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. We sometimes we do a blind tasting on the retreat. So, and then sometimes I might take it one step further where everyone has to eat the meal with their hands.
Yes,
and they have to do it blindfolded.
Nice, yeah, love it.
That I'm feeling. But again, it's really sort of slowed down. Yes, realistically, you cannot do this with every single meal.
Yeah.
But once in a while, it can really force you to slow down and enjoy and savor every moment, and that's really being present, isn't it? So
yes, that's
well done for you for kind of maintaining that and still exploring that with the family and everything. Yeah,
I think it's really important to kind of have that healthy connection round food, and you know we go out of our way not to have like phones at the table. We try and try and create, if we're talking, create a reflective practice. Like for my 5-year-old, what did you learn today? What did you get out of today? What did you enjoy? And you kind of engage with each other with regards to, I guess, being grateful for the day. And then when you're eating your food, it creates more of a positive response around it as well, because this is kind of to signify that the day is starting to come to a close, and we're going to recharge our batteries, and it creates that process. Yeah.
And actually, I think that's just sort of made me think, even if we're solo, right? So we don't have that opportunity to have a family meal. Yes. I think one of the things that's very commonplace now and very in vogue is the power of breathwork and meditation.
Yes,
and so it should be, it's incredibly powerful. But again, we don't necessarily have to take a view of meditation has to be this thing where we're sitting for 20 minutes on a yoga mat with our eyes closed and our knees bent. But meditation can be you having a solo experience with your food for 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, eating the food and really just being present in that. And that might be, might do that a couple of times a week by yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And that could be a meditation experience for somebody. So it's just learning to try and take out all the other thoughts of what you should be doing after you've had dinner and how you're going to run through the rest of the day or the rest of the evening, and actually just being very present. And essentially that's in a nutshell what meditation is about, right? It's trying to find clarity in that moment.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's I always think, because you mentioned earlier about relationships and our relationship with food. If you imagine, like, when we're born, the first thing we do is breathe. It's almost the second thing we do is take some nourishment, maybe, hopefully, if you're lucky enough, from your mother. And I think it's like the second thing we do, and it'll probably be the second to last thing we ever do, the last thing being the last breath. And I just think that bit in the middle, that journey, food is to be, enjoyed and embraced. And when people start going down the road of like counting calories, like quite severely, they sap the enjoyment out of it. And I appreciate some people may need to do that, and there's context, but I'm a foodie. I love food, and I like a mixture of, different food, different flavors. And I think that enjoyment is something I've had to, I guess, reteach myself, because there was probably a period in my 20s where it was just eating for the sake of it. But and it's really nice to hear that yourself and Wild Fitness and probably a lot of other places out there are starting to embrace that notion of enjoy, celebrate food, embrace it, and create those positive relationships. And I really like that.
It's all about the positivity of food, for sure, I think. And it's not, again, I don't want to romanticize every single meal that we have. It's not always possible to do this. I totally get that.
No, definitely,
But I think the biggest picture is, I think that it's sometimes we're so scared of letting go and being in the moment that, and this kind of carries across many other things apart from just the food.
Yeah.
That we don't quite know what's happening, so we almost just go through this. It's a box ticks. I've got my my safe meal that I have that I don't think about and rush through.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Sometimes we need to have those things in place. But for the bigger picture to occur, and the bigger picture is that actually, if there's moments that you can take throughout the week, that you can find these real present, joyful moments by yourself or with friends and family, where you really kind of appreciate and savor that nourishing moment. Then that's the bigger picture of your health and your well-being, and I think ultimately that's super important.
Yeah, definitely. It's the pleasure in the little things, and
pleasure in the little things.
Imagine if you've had like a really stressful day, that might be the one thing that's gone right in your day, but what a good way to finish. It doesn't have to be all, it doesn't have to be in front of the TV or anything else. It's something for you and you alone. And I like that. Yeah. So you mentioned kind of meditation. So do you meditate? Do you do breath work? What does that look like for you?
I do. I am still going through an inconsistent practice.
Okay.
And I don't have a set ritual that I do every single day. Even though I like the idea of that, I'm still kind of playing around with what works for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to sit there on the yoga mat with my legs crossed and I just want to focus on a mantra.
Yeah.
And other times I want to take my meditation in movement.
Yeah.
And that's often where my meditation occurs, is in movement. So that's obviously my passion. So that's where I tend to take that.
Yeah.
But then it can also be, I'm obsessed with getting out and walking in nature. So woodlands for me is my total zen.
Yeah, I love it.
And I will often find that if I don't take my phone and I just walk, then that's my real present space as well.
Yeah, nice.
I often think the problem with meditation is the word meditation, and the problem with yoga is the word yoga. It's people have these ideas of what it's supposed to be like, and I think, again, if we can break down some of these barriers, then it can become a lot more accessible for people that don't like this idea of sitting on a yoga mat and omming.
Yeah.
It's in so many other elements of our lives as well. So I do meditate daily, but it's very different every day.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think meditation should be adaptable, but I guess at the moment, meditation going into the mainstream psyche is probably still quite in its infancy. So
absolutely, and it's a great thing that it is. It's amazing that it's starting to become a lot more recognised, and breathwork is getting, everyone's talking about breathwork, which again is a great way for us to almost tap into our experience of what's going on, how we're feeling, and even changing the state of our nervous system, which if we're constantly wired, then that's almost it's like medicine that people need to really employ and take on, sort of start changing that state, So I think it's an amazing thing that it's becoming a lot more acknowledged. Yeah,
I think you mentioned kind of changing states in the nervous system, and that's pretty much why I guess I started practicing different types of breath work. You got like the Wim Hof breath work, which is, I find, great before actually going for a run, or going for a swim. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Really almost like plugs you into like the main socket of the universe. It's absolutely bonkers.
Beautiful. I would do that to do that and then go for a run. Oh my God, you must feel like
you just feel like you're supercharged.
For sure.
It's crazy. Or doing kind of have you heard or practiced box breathing?
Yes. That's something that we like with the clients.
Yeah, box breathing to kind of control kind of any stress or anxiety or anything like that is within 5 minutes I can feel everything just fall into place, and I just think there just needs to be, some. It's good that these sorts of things are going to the mainstream, but
I think box breathing is a great one, especially for beginners. And again, just starting on a simple box, such as a 4-second count or a 5-second count, because it gives your mind something to focus on.
Definitely.
So for any of you listening that you have brains that are just firing on all cylinders all the time, and you try to meditate and your brain's like la 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 la, I think it's a great one to kind of close down the mind and just focus on those numbers and those seconds. So it's a great one for beginners. I really like that. Excuse me, that was my doorbell buzzing in the background.
That's it. The time's up.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what is your answer?
So I guess just for the listeners as well, just to kind of clarify kind of the box breathing, when you say a 4 or 5 second count, are you able to kind of elaborate what that might look like for our listeners who maybe want to try that today?
Oh yeah, absolutely, I'd love to. So box breathing is like you literally imagine your inhalation and your exhalation as a box. So you would inhale into your belly, into your diaphragm for 4 or 5 seconds. For some of you that are more advanced, you can go 6 seconds, 8 seconds. Then you hold that top end of the breath for the same amount of time. So let's go with the 5 seconds. So we inhale for 5 seconds, we hold for 5 seconds, then we create a soft exhalation for 5 seconds, and then we hold the bottom part of the exhalation for 5 seconds, and that is one complete box breath. So then you would repeat this, and again you can repeat this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and what you're starting to do is obviously you're controlling your breath pattern, so you can change the state in your nervous system. But the longer you start to play and explore these holds, you're starting to increase the amount of carbon dioxide in the body, which starts to improve your tolerance to carbon dioxide. So it's improving obviously your resilience and improving the health of your mitochondria over time as well. So that's your energy powerhouses. So it's good for your health as well as your mind.
Nice.
Good. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, because most people assume, if carbon dioxide is building up, that it's a bad thing. But just like anything, your body adapts, and you actually become better equipped at actually using the oxygen that you do have. Which I quite like. So I guess I have got this question. I appreciate it might be a massive question, so it's completely up to you where you want to go with this.
Did you brief me on this from before,
There's no surprises, don't worry. What would you say is healthy living, and what does that look like?
Okay, good question, and really broad.
I know, purposely.
Okay. I would say healthy living is it's ultimately, I think fundamentally, a mindset.
Yeah.
For me, it's a multitude of factors as well as our mindset. So I'd say those factors involve healthy living is being close or connected to nature.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. Being close or connected to other human beings.
Yeah.
And whether that's a small circle or a larger circle. So feeling like you belong to a community.
Yeah.
Being close and connected to your body and moving your body and enjoying the process of moving your body. So I'd often employ skill-based training with clients to get them to enjoy that process.
Yeah.
So not only are they seeing improvements, so they're feeling like, yay, tap on the back, I'm doing well, but they're really getting their minds involved. And there's a lot of theory to suggest that we have evolved with mindful movement, mindful training. Persistent hunting was the ability to think and track and move and run at the same time. So these two combinations have created this very intelligent body that we have.
Nice.
I'd also say it's to be connected to the food that you're eating as well.
Yeah.
And to be playful in your approach with certain areas of your life.
Yeah.
So I think we can all take ourselves quite seriously, including myself. But I think when we can find areas to be playful and silly and childlike, I think that keeps us young, ultimately.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say kind of those factors.
Okay, what do you think is the and it might just be more than one, but what do you think is the biggest one that's missing? I appreciate it might overlap with some things that we've said, but what do you think is the biggest one that's missing? So nature, humans belonging, connect to body.
I'd almost say connection to nature.
Yeah.
And depending on where you live, that is. Oh, I did miss one out in my factors. Exposure to challenge as well.
Oh, yes.
That's another one.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
we can delve into that one into a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. Connection to nature, so that can be location dependent. So obviously, if you live in the middle of nowhere, then you're bound to be outside most days.
Yeah.
However, in more urbanized environments, it's very easy to leave your front door, go to your office space, return to your front door, go to the gym, and you never really see the light of day.
Yeah.
So I think trying to integrate more lake nature in the form of houseplants even,
yeah, definitely.
that has to be the way, or rerouting your way home to a park or something like that to try and get more nature in, I think is, or spending time, a conscious choice on the weekend to do something to get out into nature. And also finding more freedom in moving their bodies. So a lot of people are still in this kind of grit and bear it kind of process with movement and exercise, and they're still kind of forcing themselves to go to the gym, or it's you know these whole kind of mantras of sweat is fat crying and like all of this kind of stuff that just makes me keeps me up at night. Makes me panic attacks because it just it does my head in. But anyway, it's more about this kind of almost this punishment of our bodies where we just have to work really, really hard and it has to be grueling and testing. And if we haven't, nearly killed ourselves when we're going up on the floor, then we haven't done a good workout. And for me, there's no joy in that. There's a lot of stress in that, and there's no joy. So, and that's that could be me. That could only be me, and some people might absolutely love it, and they might get a thrill from that, and each to their individual. But I think to be more creative in our quest of movement, I think hits quite a few markers. It's not only moving your body, then you're probably moving your body in different ways, which often we move in the same repeated patterns over time. So that's what starts to lead into injuries. But then being creative, it can be a solo practice or a shared practice. So then you're building onto community. And actually, that's one thing that something like CrossFit's done really well at is building a community. So building part of the community culture, which has been amazing for the business model and for the people involved in it too. And also hitting that creative outlet as well. Because again, if we spend a lot of our time working, then when can we ever really nourish that creativity, that sort of childlike playfulness?
Yeah, definitely.
I think sometimes exploring that in movement as well can be a great thing. So yeah, I'd say nature and movement. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I agree. I think nature and movement are ever decreasing circles, unfortunately, and and you've got kind of mental illness like depression and so on increasing.
Exactly.
I always think that there's kind of I think the term is what mismatched diseases, isn't it? You've got obesity, you've got depression, and so on, and we're just kind of not quite, I guess, adapting to our self-made environments as much. And I think, just touching base with nature, even just once a week, I think is a game changer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always notice the difference.
I'm just looking outside at the moment, and I'm chomping at the bit. It's a beautiful day for once.
Oh, here it's raining. Yeah, it's dark skies, tipping it down. Yeah, but I still want to go out. Yeah, to be fair, I do like the rain. So you mentioned exposure to challenge. Interesting. Can you elaborate?
Yes. So again, it can be quite a sensitive one, and it's very context sort of subjective, depending depending on the individual. But I think it's something like, I think if we're in quite a, sort of stuck in this place where we feel like we're not progressing in life or in work or in movement, then some kind of exposure to an uncomfortable sensation or an uncomfortable feeling or an uncomfortable emotion brings about a change. And I've noticed, and I think a lot of people can relate, that they only grow, or when we look at the significant growth parts of our life, that's often been a part, or that's often to do with some kind of change, a drastic change that had to happen, or that happened in their lifestyles.
Yeah, definitely.
So you didn't choose for that change, you might not have chosen that choice of what happened, but in that process you grew from that experience.
Yeah.
So if we're in this place where we're a little bit like, am I really happy with my life? What am I doing? I think some kind of exposure to a challenge, and this is a conscious choice that you're then making, can really start to have a knock-on effect with our mindset.
Yeah.
And it improves our resilience emotionally, but then you can start to improve your physical resilience, or you can improve depending on this choice of challenge, you can start to improve your resilience to environmental changes as well. So a very common one that we sort of touched on it briefly before was we were talking about cold water therapy, Wim Hof, ice water bath. So it's not something that I practice on a regular everyday basis. But this exposure to this uncomfortable sensation, you really start to challenge, you build not only an environmental resilience on your body, so your body's ability to adapt to colder climates, which is much healthier for our skin and our immune system and all these benefits that it's got, brown fat and all of this. But then it's the mindset that's going on while you're experiencing this challenge as well. So that's building, and it's almost a great way to kind of recalibrate our stresses and our exposure to things. I think exposure to challenge, and that could be a movement challenge as well. It could be trying to do something that you hate doing, or you want to do but you can't do it, and actually building that uncomfortable. Sometimes you have to do the strength and conditioning work to be able to do a particular cool move in parkour or gymnastics or whatever the fun thing is that you want to do. You have to do the uncomfortable stuff as well. But again, that uncomfortable challenge is building to this bigger picture of resilience.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think exposure to appropriate challenges for individuals should be part of any, I guess, healthy living program. I guess. I mean, we just before I hit the record button. Yeah, like you said, we were discussing the kind of cold shower therapy, and kind of if you're ill, it's an extra.
No way I'm going in that cold shower.
Yeah, it's an extra challenge on a challenge that your body's already going through.
Exactly.
And we discussed that. I like myself, like you, I draw more to the sauna in terms of, because there's sometimes we miss out kind of going with our gut feeling on things, and sometimes I think your body and mind do know where you need to go. But yeah, I mean, that kind of challenge could be, like I mentioned, it's raining here, so kind of just stepping out and going for a walk in the rain, that might be a challenge.
That could be enough of a challenge.
Yeah, that might be a big deal for you.
That's a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. Exactly. It can be something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be cold water. But something that makes you a little uncomfortable. It can even be learning to have uncomfortable conversations with people as well.
Yeah,
so that's
definitely
building your emotional resilience as well. Being able to not get emotionally wound up in a conversation with somebody, and learning how to be able to curb these things or manage your emotions a lot better. So it's multifactorial, and it's really dependent on your situation as well. I think if you're at a breaking point in life, then the last thing you want is to add a big challenge on top of that too. But I do think that if you're in a bit of a monotonous place where it's a little bit like, what am I doing? Then I think, and if you're healthy as well, if you're relatively healthy, not sick, then so that's more contextual to cold water therapy.
Yeah.
Then I think add a challenge or don't add a challenge, depending on where you're at in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is...
We need that kind of ebb and flow, and again, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're right.
But looking sort of evolutionary, we'd often have, these high peaks of stress and these very sort of low, chilled out states where sort of nothing really changes. But we need these stressors to adapt and to overcome. And it seems like we've almost sort of flatlined now in our culture, because there's always so many stressors that it's almost, we don't quite know how to recalibrate and come back to what a real stressor is.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking of something quite random, but it is to do with what we're talking about. Funny enough, is a guy called Hans Selye. Have you heard of him before?
Oh yeah, he's like the father of stress.
Yeah, the general adaptation syndrome. So in order to kind of adapt to anything, you have to have a stressor. Without that stressor, there's no challenge on your body to create an adaptation, so you become stagnant. And yeah, you're right. All through evolution, the biggest kind of jumps in evolution are when there's a massive stress. Maybe there's a famine. Maybe the plants are dying. That promoted us to get down from the trees and go wandering, and but there has to be that stressor in order to create an adaptation. And I think sometimes that's missed out in us as adults, but also in children. We're in this, we try and promote this controlled environment to, constantly say, "Oh, be careful," and so on, and it kind of creates those individuals where they become sensitive to everything, I guess.
Completely. I'm really glad you brought that up, especially with children, because I've spent the last sort of 18 months taking my work and working with children, more in like a forest school style setting.
Yeah.
And I work with young adults or children on the spectrum and normal sort of weekend kids as well that just want to get out and play. And what's interesting is, and I'm not sort of here to blame parents, because we're all trying to do our best, and every single parent is trying to do the best thing for their child.
Definitely.
But what we often see is the more protective that the parent is towards the child, the more the child is more anxious in that environment.
Yes. Yeah.
And we want the kids to get really dirty and to climb the trees and to take these kind of self-measured risks.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately going to lead to their own growth and their own development.
Yeah.
But if we're in this culture where it's very sort of bubble wrapped, no, don't do that and don't touch it, or you might hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Then that child really starts to take that on board, because they're going to do anything for their parent. They just want to please their kid, their parents, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, what we do as children, we just want to be loved by our parents.
Yeah, of course.
But that then starts to manifest into their own sort of blueprint of how they see the world. So to take those risks, and that's one thing that I'm really one thing I love about the parkour community and parkour generations.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Dan Edwards, who runs the company, and I'm really passionate about sort of promoting parkour into schools.
Yeah, nice.
And it's that ability to have a child to take this self-calculated risk.
Yes.
So they have to look at whatever they're doing, this jump that they're going to do, and do I have the tools in my body? Do I have the ability to be able to do this jump? And that's manifested to so many other things.
Yeah.
A bigger picture of this child's inner voice, into their sort of self-assuredness, into their self-esteem, into believing their own, or to not doubting their own judgment.
Yeah, definitely.
And sort of moving forwards confidently in the world. And I think that's such a fundamental thing that we can try and offer our children.
Yeah.
Is that ability to be confident in their decision-making skills.
Yeah.
I agree. It can start with movement, It can start with movement and getting outdoors and getting mucky.
Yeah, why not? I mean, kids are, primed and ready for movement. I mean, my 5-year-old, he doesn't sit still at all. He's always getting up, moving around, maybe doing a little dance now and then. Having a little wrestle.
They don't stop.
Yeah, it's like, I think I had a discussion with a parent the other day because, they were really, I think, dead against TV. And I said, I let my little boy watch TV. It's not a problem. I said, have you seen him watch TV? And they're like, no. I'm like, he doesn't sit down. Like, he stands up, he's on one leg, he's trying to do a forward roll, he's doing a headstand, all while watching TV. I said, that's awesome. Exactly. I'm like, his creative juices are flowing. It's like, how many different ways can you watch TV? And it's like, go. And it's like, wow, how can you, just finding these little things in life in general. I mean, I'm constantly making notes from what he does, because there's, I guess, from especially the kids, there's a real, for the ones that move, there's a real enjoyment in that movement. And it's kind of, what does that look like to them? And it's that movement variance, not one movement looks the same. I guess that's what drew me into kind of more the natural movement, things like MoveNat, Animal Flow, and I guess, yes, they're structured programs, but it's a good place maybe for adults to start as well.
Exactly.
And obviously, Wild Fitness.
We have to almost retrain that part of our brain.
Yeah.
To be that little bit more creative when it comes to movement. And it's one thing that being part of this movement world, it's there's a lot of kind of coaches out there that are like, just move, just move. That's as simple as it is. And I definitely jumped on that bandwagon initially because I was so obsessed with the movement and stuff, and I was like, guys, you just need to move. But really, if you've never done that since you're a kid, how the hell do you start?
Yeah.
And where do you even start? So again, sometimes these customized programs are a good way to kind of open your movement vocabulary.
Yeah, definitely.
For you to then start exploring movement organically by yourself. Yeah. Being more creative in movement and in different environments as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's potentially a really good place to start wrapping it up. Actually, so one last thing for our listeners, if there was one or kind of 2 or 3 bits of information they could take away in order to improve their life in terms of health and fitness today, what advice would you give that person?
I guess it's almost to recap on what we've talked about. So I would say get outside more.
Yeah.
And the way that you can do that is try and integrate social meetings outside, movement outside, family time outside, so maybe going for a mint, like a local mint leaf or something that you can put into your food. So again, just starting to associate not just going outside for the sake of going outside, like actually building some other frameworks of your lifestyle into it to make it easier to integrate. I would say find or explore a skill-based movement that you can start to explore. So it could be a or even once every couple of weeks to see how you get on with it. And that could be everything from trampolining to climbing to capoeira to dancing to something that you used to do that you loved as a kid and then you stopped doing it. It could be netball even. It's something that starts to build more of a community around you that's movement related.
Nice.
So it's not just about the gym.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably the last point is more open-minded, just more open spectrum is just to be more playful and not to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, nice.
With everything, and we're all trying to do the best we can with anything. So just let's cut ourselves a little bit bit of slack and just enjoy laughing at ourselves more.
Indeed, definitely that. So for our listeners, where can people kind of find you? Where can they find out more information about you and Wild Fitness?
So Wild Fitness is based on www.wildfitness.com, and if people want to reach out to me, they can shoot me an email at Nala, Nala, that's my alter ego, at wildfitness.com, or my Instagram page, which I keep probably active more so than any other of my social media channels, and that's Nala_wildfitness.
Fantastic.
I'm based in London and Brighton when I'm not on retreat.
Fantastic. Is there any retreats coming up?
Not at the moment, actually. We've not got any set date. But if that changes, then I will definitely let you know, and then maybe keep something up.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. Great conversation.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. So I do genuinely mean that. It was a great conversation. There's lots of stuff in there. On the show notes, I'll put kind of the links to social media and the website as well. So thank you very much.
Next one.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to the One Zen Fitness Academy podcast. Make sure that you subscribe. Please give us a 5-star review, and please, if it's not too much trouble, write a review. For more information, go to www.onezenacademy.com for all your fitness, wellness and health needs. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.